All right, so this is the Couch Pundits podcast. I'm after getting a decent setup now, and I'm not on my iPhone 4 and my AirPods, so you probably can hear me this time, and see me, and my camera's not waving around. Um, so yeah, no, we're gonna do a discussion of the Champions League games over the from last night. Borussia Dortmund losing 2-1 to Man City. City go through there, and then Liverpool and Real Madrid drawn 0-0, and Madrid going through there. And then also we're just gonna have a short discussion about the games themselves, and then we're gonna discuss the final four, in terms of who we think will actually win and everything like that. So, Daryl, you start off as the Liverpool fan. Give us your thoughts on the 0-0 with Real Madrid.
Yeah, it was a bit of a tough watch, especially when Liverpool dominated the game completely, just couldn't score. And I saw today on Instagram, like a fan page put up like an interview with another like fan or whatever, and he said it was just like the Barcelona game, except they couldn't finish their chances. Which maybe it's been a bit biased, but I think they could have went through if like Salah gets a chance in the second minute, should be scoring that.
It's how the
Get
Barcelona game should have gone.
Yeah, basically, like, because everything they touched turned to a goal in the Barcelona game, where it was the complete opposite here. They actually probably created better chances here, um, and couldn't finish them off. I think Real Madrid just, I don't know if they showed their true colours or if they just set up in that way, but like we said last night over text that it was a professional performance, but then the more I think about it, the more I think it wasn't really a professional performance. It was more a lucky performance. Like, Salah scores in the second minute, all of a sudden that's not a professional performance anymore. And it wasn't like they did that in special to stop him from scoring in the second minute. He he just couldn't finish the chance. Like, he was right there in front of the goal, miskicks the ball, and Courtois has like a relatively easy save. But on as well, just one thing to say, like, Courtois I thought had a really good game. I thought he like really made sure that any half chance that Liverpool got, they didn't score. Um, on the other hand, like, I just wasn't really convinced by Real Madrid. Looking forward now for the next three games potentially. I just wasn't convinced. I didn't think they had anything. I think for what happened in the first game, like, Vinicius Junior went like proper missing. Like, there's rumors that there's posters of his face like nailed onto lampposts all over Madrid. Looking for him. I think honestly, like, the best player in the game, and maybe it's just me being biased, but I really do think the best player in the game was Trent, and it's just a pity that the best player in the game happened to be a right back rather than someone who could actually finish a chance in front of the goal.
Yeah, it just seemed to be a bit of a just as like a bit of a typical night at the office for Liverpool. Like, they just couldn't really take their chances, as you said. Like, before last season, like, you probably are getting three or four goals there, like at least two anyway. That would have put you through, I think. Yeah, would have put you through.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, Madrid didn't do much. They didn't really create much. Like, they had one or two kind of half chances, but they definitely had no real clear cut chances. And it just feels like, just kind of typical Liverpool. Like, the miracle, the miracle was just never on, really. Like, I know it's easy to say that in hindsight, but just feels like with Liverpool, that kind of magic that they had over the last few years seems to be kind of gone, and it's just a bit unfortunate for them, really. Like, there's not really much else to say, to be honest. Like, it was a professional performance from Madrid. It's exactly the way they wanted the game to go. Like, it was similar with Chelsea. Like, they have a decent lead. You just don't want to blow it. You don't want to messy the first 20 minutes. Like, I think that's the same with Real Madrid in this game as what Chelsea. I just felt like Liverpool didn't offer too much. Like, I'm not one to question Klopp, because the things he's done in the last few years is unbelievable, and he's no doubt one of the best managers. But I was just like so surprised to see like Firmino starting over Jota, or at least start for them, because I always feel like whenever they've started for them, Mane, Salah, Firmino, and Jota, they've looked good. Like, Jota has been in unbelievable form lately for club and country, and Firmino, I think it's one goal in his last 19. This is a game, as I said, where you're looking for at least two goals. So I just thought that was a bit of a strange decision. Same with in the first leg, the way starting Keita. Like, I'm not saying it's his fault, because I don't think they've. I think Madrid probably would have gone through no matter what team would have started both games. But I thought that was a strange one.
I kind of understand with putting Firmino in and Milner. I questioned Milner as well, being like, why is he there? Shocking stat. Milner and Modric are the same age. I was blown away. Um, but I was kind of shocked to see
That is
Milner in
shocking.
there. Kind of shocked to see Firmino in there. But once the game started, there was like a clear and obvious way that they wanted to play that had to include the both of them, and it was the thing of stopping Cruz. Like one thing,
Yeah,
obviously, you're looking for a goal, okay, but Klopp said it before the game. You need 2 goals, but once you concede one, the game ties over. Like you have to score four. Then, like it's over
yeah,
once you concede. And one thing that Firmino did well from the like mostly in the first half was stopping the Cruz long balls forward. Cruz was still playing the long balls, but it was often like out to the right and left back, which you're happy enough with that. It's not going in behind, it's not turning your defenders, and
yeah,
that made sense. And then as well with Milner, with stopping the likes of Casemiro and Modric, just getting on the ball and wanting to play. Like he was the closest player that Klopp had available to Jordan Henderson, really, with that pressing intensity and leadership. Where like you heard it quite a lot during the game, where Milner would be shouting at players like Mane or Firmino or Wijnaldum, telling them to press and when not to press, and like they did miss that in the first game.
yeah. That's the thing. Like, I kind of did understand to an extent starting Milner because, like, I know people say, well, like, you should have started Thiago, but I do kind of understand. Like, Milner's been there, and like, he was in those big games for Liverpool over the last few years. I can understand it for that reason, but it was just the Firmino one I was more surprised at. But no, to be honest, there's not too many talking points from this game really. I feel like it was kind of just exactly how you would have predicted the game to go beforehand. In terms of City versus Dortmund, what did you think of that game as well?
Yeah,
Obviously,
well,
City going through.
yeah. I mean, again, like there's no massive shock. I thought when Bellingham scored, like this is it. Like my predictions coming true here. Like Dortmund are gonna see
Yeah,
this out, but like
I
it's
think when
Dortmund.
I think when Dortmund went up, we all thought like typical City. Like the last 3 years they've gone out in the quarters. Like you just thought that City, like they're just not showing up in the Champions League again when it matters.
Yeah, and I think when you saw that Bellingham scored, like the one thing with Dortmund is they're really not strong at the back, and when like that little bit of hope creeps in, when I saw that City had equalised, I was like, this current, like you just know this
Yeah,
is how it's going to go. Like Dortmund are going to have to score 2 more goals unless it's going to extra time, obviously, to get it done in the 90. I was like, this current, there's no way, unless like Haaland just did a madness. But um, no, I think Bellingham's goal was unbelievable. Like he's obviously a massive talking point after the game, like you see on Sky Sports, Instagram, and stuff like that. Like Pep's talking about him, saying like he must be lying that he's 17 because he's just unbelievable.
yeah,
Um, and I think it is like I think he will be one player that's like in a few years goes to a big club. I hope that all this attention doesn't mean that he goes to a big club like next year, because I think that'll be a mistake. Um, of course, on the
yeah,
other hand, the man who ended the tie completely, Phil Foden, does it again for City. Like he's just doing a madness as well this year.
yeah. Like it's mad to think that he's still 20. Like he's still 20. Like he's not even turned 21 for another month. He's something else, honestly. Like the amount he's achieved, like he's won 2 titles, like 3 titles at this stage. Like they need
Yeah.
11 points or something, and then good chance of winning the FA Cup, the League Cup. Probably will win as well. Like it's
Yeah.
actually ridiculous the amount of trophies he's won before turning even 21. Like he's genuinely just a top player. Like he's special. Like he is special. Like he scored an unbelievable goal. Like I was saying to you before, like not to take anything away from the goal, it was a quality goal, but like he is in acres of space on the edge of the box, like from a corner. Like for Dortmund to not have someone getting out to him, like he actually was in 10 yards of space, like when he took that shot, like and like it was still a great strike, but like you can't be leaving players like this, the quality City have, just unmarked on the edge of the box, like. But I'm not taking anything away from him because he was unbelievable. He's a quality player, and like he's definitely got an unbelievable future at City. Yeah, like I was saying to you beforehand, regarding Bellingham, like the last tie when he had that goal disallowed, like it would like makes a huge difference. So that's an away goal for Dortmund. I know that I'm not taking anything away from City in that sense. I still think they would have probably gone through, but just in terms of Bellingham, I just like I was saying last time. I think he should be on the plane. Like, do you think this kind of performance? I always feel like in the Bundesliga, people don't really rate it or whatever, but when it's in the Champions League and everyone's watching, I feel like that'll get him a lot of plaudits. Like, do you think he has to go on the plane now? Like, he's performing at this level for this size of club. Like, I feel like if he was 25, he definitely would be. It's just the fact that he's 17.
I think he has a better chance of getting on the plane now than Jadon Sancho, in my opinion. Like, um, obviously both like top class players, but just what he's done in the last two games. Obviously, like Champions League, you're on the world stage. Bundesliga is kind of just, like, let's be honest, it's just for Germans. Like no one else watches the Bundesliga. You know, there's like, if you
Yeah,
go
it
to,
gets disrespected.
yeah, it does a little bit when you think of that, but it's just not. It's not the main stage. Like the two probably main stages in Europe is the Premier League and La Liga, apart from obviously like actual European competitions. But I think he has a better chance than Jadon Sancho, and at this current moment, just because of how he performed in two legs, like, which seems a little bit unfair. But um, personally, I don't think Jadon Sancho's getting on the plane. I'd say he is though.
Yeah, I think like the fact that on Monday Night Football, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, when Carragher and Neville were picking their squads, the fact that not even one of them, like neither of them had Sancho, I feel like the people who are like, I think like Carragher and Neville are great pundits, but I feel like people like especially someone like Gary Neville who's been there picking a squad for Euros. I feel like people like that, they're like, not that I'm not saying he knows something, or I think people like that are always more in the know, and they're in the mindset of sort of a manager picking a squad. And I think that that's a joke, like to not be, if they weren't like picking Sancho. But I know he didn't do much over the two leg. Well, he was injured. Was he injured for both legs?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously didn't do too much. But no, I do think he should be in the squad. But yeah, I feel like Bellingham has a better chance, as you said, because he's done it in a game against an English side where everyone's going to be watching the Champions League. But no, it'd be interesting to see. But I think Sancho and Bellingham should both be in the squad. I think doing it at this level.
Just before we touch on, I personally just think that the way Jesse Lingard's playing, he's more likely to get into the squad than Jadon Sancho. I know they're not the same position. Okay,
Lingard,
before that said,
Lingard is definitely on the plane.
yeah,
Definitely.
I just before it said that they're not the same position. Like in Southgate, it's they're the exact same position. Like it's just like Lingard might play
But like
through the middle,
that's the kind
but
of thing a few weeks ago, people would have like been like, oh well, of course he's gonna pick Lingard, and kind of like snobbery kind of attitude towards it. But when you look at this stage, I think he's
yeah,
got
no, he cannot
eight
pick him.
goals. He's got more goals. I think he's got like 11 contributions in 8 games or something like that since he joined, or 12 in 9, something like that. Like he's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Like we could make a whole video itself on the England squad. Like we could talk about that
yeah,
for an hour.
yeah.
That's a conversation for another day. But
Just one thing. Um,
uh,
what do you think of I guess you could say, like, the new narrative of Foden carrying City to the Champions League? Because something that's just not being talked about enough is the fact that Raheem Sterling doesn't get into the City squad because Foden's in it now. Like,
yeah, like Sterling hasn't had a great year. Like to be fair, like I don't want to be one of them people kind of bashing someone like when the same. It's the same with Mane. Like I haven't bashed Mane this year because he's been in world class for 3 years. It's the same with Sterling. Like they've been two of them have been top players for the last 3 years. So one off season. It's not even that much of an off season. I think Sterling's got 9 goals and 3 or 4 assists. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like to be honest, like I don't think. I'm not. I wouldn't be too worried about Sterling. I think he definitely still starts at the Euros just based on reputation. Like maybe not as much on merit now, but I think Foden, like that's not to take away from Foden though. Foden is genuinely like getting to the point where you're like this felt like it's not like you don't talk about him as a youngster anymore. You talk about him as a top player. It's like Mbappe. Like we don't judge Mbappe against like not say like these are all great players, but Greenwood, Martinelli, etc. We judge Mbappe as Messi, Ronaldo.
yeah,
Like when you're that good, you take away the age. Not saying Foden, not comparing Foden to Mbappe, but I'm just saying he's getting to that point where you're looking at Foden versus De Bruyne. You're not talking about age. You're talking about impact on the game and what they're doing, and that's a credit to how good Foden has been this season. And I think he's unbelievable. And England have some great players in that position, and they're so lucky to have him. And so are City.
yeah, I 100% agree with everything that you said. Um, moving on to the final games. I mean, like the semi-finals and the final. What do you think now? Obviously, one of the teams is your team, that will face Real Madrid, and the other match being PSG versus Man City. I mean, I think I said it the other day, like it's anyone's game when you get to the semi-finals, but kind of gives me Ajax, Spurs, Liverpool, Barca vibes. The semi-final, it's the way they've kind of lined up that the two big teams play each other, and I mean, obviously Real Madrid are a massive team, and so are Chelsea. And I'm not trying to say that they're not, because that would be a lie. Um, but I mean, it's, I don't know what they're calling it, whether it's the El Clasico version of money, on one side,
El
and
Clasico.
El Clasico. There you go. And then obviously the other side is just Chelsea, Madrid, who haven't had the season that both season or that other teams have had. What do you think going into it? Because I mean, like obviously they're the two favorites on one side, but Real Madrid and Chelsea definitely dark horses. You can't even call them dark horses; they're just like
Yeah.
challengers.
Yeah, no, as you said at this stage, like when you're in the semis, anyone has a chance. I wouldn't even say, I definitely don't think it's as like unbalanced as like Ajax and Spurs versus Liverpool or Barcelona.
Yeah,
Like no doubt the favorite is going to be PSG or City in that final, like whether it's against Real Madrid or Chelsea.
yeah,
Uh, it's kind of hard. Like the last few years, the bookies have always had City as number one favorites from the start. They always had, and then but like they'd always get knocked out to like Leon last year. Then it was Spurs. Then it was 2018. I can't remember who it
Liverpool,
was,
isn't it?
but
Was it Liverpool 2018?
Liverpool. Yeah, Liverpool when they were miles ahead of Liverpool in the league. But I always think like you can't. And I don't think, but I always think City have been one of the best teams in the world for the last 3 years, like clearly, because it's not like they've been like so average and like I just think it's just Champions League games are just defined on tiny moments. Like then in the build up to that goal, I think it was Aguero or Bernardo Silva, I can't even remember, but like someone was caught like an inch offside the build up to that goal. Like the margins are so fine, and I know people say, well, that's what sport is. Yeah, I know, but it's harsh to say City aren't like a good team because they haven't won the Champions League. I think they're the best team in the world right now. I think they're overall a much better team than PSG. I think, but as I said, like you can't account for that in a two league. Like Mbappe and Neymar could literally end the game in 5 minutes. Like, um, it's so hard to call. I think PSG are definitely, they've kind of gotten rid of that like old, like I'm bored of that whole bottler thing. Like everyone just saying everyone, if you lose you're just a bottler. Like I hate that. Like I just think that's stupid. And at the end of the day, PSG, they got to the final last year and lost 1-0. And this year they've just knocked out the reigning champions, who were probably most people's favourites going into this season. So
Yeah,
I like being called a bottler at this stage. I'm kind of bored of it, to be honest.
yeah.
They're
Like
definitely the two favourites, but sorry, go on.
they've knocked out Barca and then Bayern. Like they haven't had an easy path, and now it's Man City. Like if they manage to get to the final, like you'd take like they're not just favorites. They beat every other favorite. Like
Exactly. But no, then on the other side of the draw, it's such an interesting one because Chelsea and Real Madrid have never met in the Champions League. Um, there's no real history there between them. Obviously, Real Madrid are like historically just an unbelievable team, and they've beaten like a Liverpool team. Like it's definitely still such a tough team to beat over two legs. Liverpool, with the pedigree they have in the Champions League as well, and no, I definitely think it's going to be such an interesting game. I think Chelsea are so rock solid at the back. Besides that one game against West Brom, they've been flawless for 3 months, and they were down to 10 men after the first half an hour in that game. They hadn't conceded at that point. Um, they've been literally so flawless. Like in my opinion, I think they got at the time. I remember thinking they got the hardest draw in the last 16 of all the teams that finished first. It was Atletico or Barca, and I would have said I would have taken Barca because they looked so shaky at that point.
yeah,
They made Atletico Madrid look so average, and they were average in those two guys. But I think Tuchel has been there last season. He's kind of getting to that point as well, where he's kind of people are saying, "Oh, what is he doing? He's won the French league, etc." Like, I got team to the final. That's what you should be doing. You have two of the best strikers in the world, or forwards in the world. But I think Tuchel definitely has a point to prove to people that doubt him. I definitely don't doubt him. I think he's a top coach. I think it's an interesting one for Chelsea. Like a lot of the players they haven't been at this stage before, whereas Real Madrid, like they've just got all the experience. It's practically the same team without Ronaldo and Marcelo. Like
Yeah,
realistically, it's the same team. And Benzema has been unbelievable this season. Everyone knows that. It's getting to the point now where Benzema is being called underrated, like where he's just not underrated anymore because everyone says he's underrated.
yeah. I mean,
Um, but no, I think it's gonna be. I think it's just the midfield that I'm worried about with Real Madrid. Like that is just an unbelievable midfield.
yeah. I mean, like Chelsea can look at last night's game and be like, right, that's how you stop Real Madrid's midfield. Like it's all to do with pressure and no time on the ball because they're just so slick with how they pass the ball around. Like the three of them just dictate. Obviously, I think by then Varane and Ramos should be well and truly back. Um, I think their right back problems should be fixed. Although I didn't even think they were broken, to be honest with you. I heard, I can't even remember who was commentating last night's match on RTE, but whoever it was said that Odriozola was out of position playing right back when he's a right back. Like he's always been a right back. Like I don't know
That's
where they
difficult.
get their paperwork from because like, um, but it will be obviously a slightly different team with the two of them back. And I think that I have a feeling it's going to be a boring tie. Like I really do. I feel like it's going to be decided on one goal, and
Yeah,
there's going to be at max like 3 goals scored over the whole tie. And the team who scores the first goal probably wins it. But like,
yeah.
I think yeah, Chelsea's big thing is to stop the midfield. But I mean, Chelsea have a midfield that can stop the Real Madrid midfield. Like they have Kante, Kovacic,
I hope if
Jorginho.
Kante is fit, then it's gonna be evened out a good bit. I think because he is
Yeah,
honestly he's been injured a bit this season, but he has been like back to his like
yeah,
prime years, like 2016, 17. Like he has been at his absolute best this season.
yeah, yeah. And I think I don't know even what way it's going to go. I think it's going to be probably the closer one of the two because on the other side you're going to have obviously Man City are the better team between them and PSG. But in my opinion, like um, Man City play right into PSG's hands with the way they want to play. That defensive block, counter attack football that Poch has brought to PSG, like and the way City kind of play with the. I know City don't concede many goals, but I mean they don't play PSG every week. you know. So I think that, on the other hand, could be a high scoring game, kind of like the way every other PSG tie has gone. Um, but I think,
Like I know it's a bit boring to say this, but I think like a lot of these games just come down to injuries as well. Like if you look at
yeah,
Bayern Munich PSG, we can all say PSG were unbelievable over 2 games, and they were very good over 2 games. But like if Lewandowski there, that is a different story. Like just something like that can honestly just change a game. Like Kante can get injured in training the week beforehand, and then like Real Madrid can just walk all over Chelsea, or someone like Benzema can get injured, or Tony Cruz for Real Madrid, and you're thinking like that is just changes the whole tie. And it's the same with the other one. Not as much with City, to be honest, because they honestly can replace anyone. But like like even with PSG, like then again, like this, like without Neymar, they still have Mbappe. But I
yeah,
think like injuries, just like I know it sounds boring to say, but especially like the amount of games players are playing now, and like even something like COVID, like Ramos
yeah,
caught COVID before this tie with Liverpool as well. Like
yeah. And like I think one thing about Real Madrid is like they have unbelievable depth. No matter what anyone says about their injuries, their depth is unbelievable. Like I saw a thing on Instagram today that Militao cost Real Madrid more than Liverpool's whole back line tonight by like, and it was by like
he
35
was
million or
50
something like
million.
that. Yeah, like they when you can, and that was including the fact that Liverpool haven't paid 15 for Kabak. They just added 15 in, you know. And he's their fourth choice centre back. So like you have to remember, even like Valverde going right back, like he was well capable of playing right back. He had a rough start, but once he got into the
Yeah,
game,
he's quality.
well capable right back. They have depth, and that is one thing with Madrid that comes in their favor with so many injuries happening this year.
Yeah, like as well with Vinicius. I feel like people kind of disrespect Vinicius as well. Like as if like people just look too much at like, and obviously like it is important, but a lot of people just kind of focus on the goals and assists. Like I think this season he only has something like 5 goals and maybe 4 or 5 assists.
Yeah,
Before the Liverpool game is something like three or something like that. I can't remember, but his stats aren't really great. But at the end of the day, he's like 20.
yeah,
Or I think he might be even 19. I think he might be 20 though. But like he's actually so important for Real Madrid because the way Benzema kind of likes to drop deeper sometimes. Like Vinicius stretches the defense. Then like you saw that against Liverpool for the first goal in the first leg, where Tony Kroos gets the ball, he gets half a second where he's not pressed and he finds a bit of space.
yeah,
Benzema kind of comes a bit deeper, kind of makes a bit of a gap in the defense. Vinicius stretches the defense, and then that's a goal. And it was the same for Trent's mistake. Like people don't really notice that because they just think Trent just made a mess of that. But
yeah,
like, there's so many components to Real Madrid. It's not just like it's not just luck. These things, like these are like unbelievable players, and people definitely don't rate them. I think they'll go on to win the Spanish league as well.
yeah, probably.
I know they're not top. I think they're second, but they're only maybe they could even be third, but they're only a point or two off top anyway. And
Yeah,
the momentum they have after winning El Clasico as well, and easily enough, they hit the post 2 or 3 times. Um, I think Real Madrid are a top side. Like, I think I'm always going to back Chelsea to go through, just as a fan. But Real Madrid are unbelievable as well. Like they can't be underrated. But neither can Chelsea as well. Like Chelsea don't need to score many goals to go through. Like we've seen that over the last 2 ties. I know it was everyone says it was Porto, but like against
yeah,
Atletico Madrid, like they didn't concede a goal in 180 minutes against like Suarez, Joe Felix, so many other players.
yeah.
Um, I think I think whoever, as I said, whoever wins that tie is who and goes into the final is going to be the underdog though. So if you were to pick a winner from the final four, who are you going to go with?
I, I'm gonna go with either Man City or PSG. Um, I'm gonna go with PSG. I'm gonna go for a little bit out there and just go PSG. What are you thinking?
Three. Give us a reason.
I just think, although Man City are unbelievable, that they just play into PSG's hands. So if I'm going on that leg, I'm going right PSG, and then I do think that if PSG get to the final, they'll win it. That's basically my thought. Obviously, it's all just like randomly picked out of my head, but that's just what I think so far. Obviously, one injury changes the whole picture, but that's what I think. I think if they get to the final again, it's a bit like Liverpool when they come up against Spurs. Like they're not losing it again.
Yeah, like that's a huge thing as well. Like PSG have that experience. Like they've been to the final last year. They know what it feels like to lose a final. They just know the feeling of a final as well. We did an Instagram poll last night on our Instagram's Couch Pundits podcast. The most votes was PSG actually. Second was City, and then Real Madrid and Chelsea were even on votes. So, and that's fairly standard. Like I think a lot of people are back in PSG now. It's so hard to call. Like I'd love to say Chelsea, and like I honestly wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, like there's only 4 teams left, but I wouldn't be that surprised to see any of them win it. Like I could imagine Real Madrid winning it. I could imagine Chelsea
Yeah,
winning it, and obviously the other two as well.
yeah. I think it's a good 4 teams to have at the end.
I think my heart says Chelsea, but I think my head says PSG. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, definitely. My heart says Chelsea,
Thought you
but
were gonna
my
say
I'm
City.
gonna
Not
go
gonna
with
lie.
Chelsea. My no,
Go
oh,
with your
it's so
heart.
difficult. I said during the year. I said over the last few months I've said City, but now I'm getting to this point. I'm thinking PSG, but I genuinely don't know. Like I actually don't know.
Yeah,
There's so many variables. Like as I said, in an injury, like if
yeah,
you hear Mbappe is out for one of the games, that just changes everything. Like.
yeah.
But I think if I'm sticking my neck on the line, I'm going to say Chelsea. I'm obviously going to go Chelsea.
Brilliant. I would have went with Liverpool if it had been different case last night.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
um, grand.
yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening. Give our Instagram a follow and our TikTok as well. We're starting to try and post more on there. And yeah, no, we'll be back soon. And I'm just glad to not be recording on a potato.
Brilliant.